that session called Ask the Expert Scanning. And today we have a special guest with us. So we just, I think you can all see my screen. So it's me, Arno Lezanek. I'm from Trimble. I'm the market manager for 3D scanning, and I've been doing this, or I've been in scanning for a quarter of a century, So it's very old, but anyway, that's me. And also from the sales team in Europe, we like Paolo Cocca from Italy and Steven Witte from Germany. And we are really a 6 special guests. So first we have people from our quality group. So really our deep expert about everything. They know everything about everything on scanning. So Yannick Jonet, based in Paris, long time member of the team, and Kahina, also based in Paris, expert in 3D laser scanning, and Volker Kohler, based in Germany, East Berlin, and also an expert. And then we have like 3 special guests, really, maybe you know them already. So we have like Ross McAtamney from Ultimate Positioning Group. He's based in Australia, and we have the pleasure to have him with us today. Gilda de Kervé-Noël from GeoMesure in France. And last but not least, Melvin Penwill from Correc is based in Worcester in the UK. So Ross, Gilda, and Melvin are members of our distribution. So in Australia, France, and the UK, and of course we have like other people in other countries. We have the same job than Ross, Gilda, and Melvin, but today we have those 3 special guests. So what I will do is an Ask the Expert session. So what I will do, I will first introduce like a few slides, but you should be able to see on your GoToMeeting a box called chat. And because it's Ask the Expert, really would like you to ask your questions. So we will see the question. The other attendees will not see your questions. So please don't be shy. Place all the questions you have. That's the goal of that session. And then one of us will answer you, of course, like verbally, so everyone can listen to the answer. So please ask your question. There is no bad questions. All questions are good and valid, and we do our best to answer them. So first of all, just a quick reminder about the Trimble scanning portfolio. So as you can see, we got like the hardware, the Trimble X7, the Trimble TX6, TX8, and the SX12. But also, let's not forget our software, Trimble Perspective. That's our field software we use with the Trimble X7. And there's also like Trimble Perspective Mobile that we can install onto a phone, Android or iOS, to control the Trimble X7. And in the office, we have like Trimble RealWorks. That's our core software for office software for scanning, so to process the data, but also like to share the data, to do some modeling, register the scans together, on much more. And also like Trimble Business Center, it's an office software also that people know a lot about, like GNSS for baseline processing and so on. But since a few years, we have a scanning module inside Trimble Business Center that can allow you to also to do like registration, make cross sections, volume inspection, also you like point load to tunnels, monitoring, and many more. So you can ask questions on all those hardware, software, and even more if you want, and we will do our best to answer the question again. So just a few things I think it's important, because sometimes we see like people are not always using the latest build. So just a reminder that we released last week a new version of Trimble RealWorks, version 12, and Trimble Business Center, version 5.60, also Trimble Perspective. That version number is a bit more difficult to say, but 2.1.3.1474 with a new firmware, and Perspective Mobile also. So having said all this, just a few slides about Trimble RealWorks 12.0. So we introduced like a new pipe modeling and editing tools. We also made some redesign. One feature that's very much appreciated is the automatic moving object removal. So you can remove like a moving object like automatically, and a few more things that were created into that release. And for the Trimble X7 and the new firmware, so we introduced like a new indoor high productivity scan mode It's really like a mode that we develop and release because listening to you, because there was a need for many of you to have a faster scan mode, especially like for indoor applications. So that's why it has to be used like indoor most of the time. But we really see like a big productivity gain up to 40% in some cases, depending on the number of scans you will make. So really a mod that's very much appreciated. So if you don't try it or you don't know about it, really, if you can install the latest firmware, so you can see the version number here on top, as well as Perspective software, you will really enjoy it. And then so you can see the minimum requirement for the firmware on the software to have a go at that new indoor mode. So also like a few slides. So if you don't know how to use it, you will have to go to your settings, to the scanner, go to indoor mode, activate it, and then you will see like a new mode in your scan settings, like a 1 minute scan mode. It's a bit less actually, and then you can launch it. So of course, by default, the image capture is off because the goal of that mode is to do like productivity, but nothing can stop you from taking pictures. But so yep, have a look, have a go. If you have questions, if you're based in the UK, you can contact Melvin. If you're based in Australia, you can contact Ross. Based in France, you can contact Gilda. Of course, they're going to be more than happy to answer those questions for you. And then, so that was it for the quick presentation. I don't know, is there like already some questions? Again, it's an Ask the Expert session, so we are here to answer your question. So please don't be shy. Again, all questions are good. In order to maybe break the ice, I will share a little bit things about Perspective. If I can move my screen and you can see it, that will be good. But again, please ask your question. That's the goal of that session. And of course, I don't know if can I be able to see my screen shortly. Can you see my screen? Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to show like a little project that was made by a customer in France. It's like a small city. So they did like the road outside. Then they did like a building itself. So if we look at all the stations like this, you can see they did like several floors. So the basement, first floor, the second floor, and so on. So what's interesting to see if a Perspective, if you didn't know about it, by default, you always register to the last scan. So you can go around the street like 1, and then 2 will register to 1, 3 to 2, and so on, so on. So, but sometimes you're gonna go inside the building, continue to do your job, and so on, and maybe you don't want to register to the last one. So in Perspective, you have an option. Unfortunately, I'm not connected to a scanner. We can go to register to a specific station. So here, I just wanted to highlight this. So they started to go from station 1 to station 2, and then for 3, it was moved like somewhere else, and 3 had to be registered to station 1, for example. And that's key if you did like a traverse with a total station in the past, for example. It's like doing like backside foresight in a way, where you can just register like this. And that's a good example here with one on the top. They went really to the corner of that building on top. That was station 51. They opened the window. It's always a good idea when you scan like inside to open the windows. So you can also get points in common between the outside and the inside. And they register 51 with station 1. So we need to make like links that make more sense. That will also help a lot the refinement of your project. So please, if you never did that, it's a good way to do this. And something I wanted to show here that's very useful. If you go to your stations here, you can see we also in Trimble Perspective, and you can make annotations. So many people use annotations, like doing like feature coding. You can tag a point in the point cloud and say, oh, that point is like a fire extinguisher or a broken glass or whatever. But there's also something called labels. So with labels, you can actually like tag a scan. So like all the scans for the first floor, the second floor, the top floor. That will help you also after to filter your scan in the office or in the field. So for example, here, if you wanted to see all the scans that were made like outside, so external, I can just press on ext, that's a label. And Trimble Perspective will only display the scan that has the same label. So it's easier after for you if you want to analyze what you did. Same way if you wanted to see all the scans that were made onto like the second floor, for example. So I need to find in my list, or only for the first floor RDC, the rez-de-chaussée in French, but whatever. That's all the scan for the first floor. So again, is try to use labels in the field, especially like for complex project with like a building with several floors. That will really help you after to see. Let's say if you go back to station 8 or in that corner, say, and maybe I need to register that scan to station 7 or to station 31, for example. So it's a great tool again to use here. I don't know, Sophie, if you see like any questions so far.
Just to point out as well, Arnold, a feature I like within perspective as well when you're doing different floors is setting the radius. So it displays like only the last 5 scans or the radius of the last 5 scans as well. So when you're sort of going upstairs, you get the scans from below and above. So it's quite nice just to display the last 5, else it does get a bit too much to see at once.
Yeah, that's a good point, maybe. And you see, like the default is 5, but you could put 10 if you wanted, or less. And that's a really good point.
And also, just to point out as well, when you're inside the building, you see the roof. There's a setting within the layer button to switch off the roof and the walls, so you don't display the ceiling. So it's easier to see the point cloud as well. So it's one of the. If you go on the left-hand side, Arnold, the layer button, we can sort of switch off the one with the cloud.
Yes, see inside, yeah.
So it just helps to see in the building more. So some tips I like using, showing customers on site.
That's a good one.
Very good.
We use that a bit for internals. The only thing with that is if you have a scan on the outside, you'd have to turn that off to see on the inside, because what it turns off is the points that are between the scanner and where the camera essentially is. So if you've got outside scans and inside, it's best to split the two up. So you have your outside, you can turn that off and then just see your inside. And also splitting your floors into groups helps as well, like you were saying. So yeah.
Definitely.
So we've got first questions. Sorry, I wanted to just kind of say that we've got first questions coming in.
So if someone has a first question, so you mean like everyone else needs to ask a question, please.
Yes, the first question, do you want me to just read it?
Oh, I think, Sophie, like we can see the question, and the team can answer the questions themselves if they want to. We have quite a few already. So yeah, the team, I spoke already quite a lot. So if the team can help me now to pick the question and answer them, that will be perfect. And for the attendees or the people, please continue to ask your question. I'm going to be more than happy to answer them. So Stephen, if you wanted to answer the first one.
Sure. Yeah, there's a question. What's the highest tripod for X7 that you're recommending? Well, that's a good question. There's not really a recommended height that we're using. I have seen on LinkedIn certain setups where X7 was pull out 3-4 meters on a truck, let's say, doing a scan. So if the scanner is stable enough during the scan, then there's no limit on doing this. So that's the answer on that question.
Thank you, Stephen.
We've done work up in ceilings on 5-meter extendables that sort of at their limits, and we've got customers who've done that. But it can be done. Going higher than that, you really need to be careful of your stability and what's going on around them.
Thanks, Ross.
There is some more question. I don't know if some of you want to.
So yeah, I've got a customer asking how many retros do you recommend to use on site. He's saying they normally have 2 targets and a nail on the ground. Yeah, obviously shooting the nail on the ground is not as easy to shoot. So, you know, you're going to get your accuracy not as good. With retros, it's not recommended with the X7, the reflectivity, but with the control, you're probably best having as much control as you can get. So, you know, like in the drawing below, you would try and get some control on scan 1, and then get some control on the middle and the end of the scan data as well. So spreading your control through the scan data. So it will work with a minimum of 2 control stations, but you know, you're only as good as your control, really. The more you can have, you can eliminate control if you have more or a bad control point. So I hope that helps.
There's a question here of why you would split the exterior and interior scans. It's not essential. I would do it for visual in the field. So turning off the scan data so you can see inside. If you have scans on the outside, that scan on the outside will actually block and make it look like you haven't been able to see inside. So if you can turn off the outside scans, that see inside mode will allow you to actually see inside the buildings. It's just the way that it works. So you don't have to do that. The other thing too is for color correction, and sometimes it's just easier to just split your scan into groups and process and handle those groups in sort of smaller subsets, as was mentioned earlier. So yeah, that's sort of, it's not essential, but it would just be a workflow to make it a bit easier in the field potentially.
Yeah, there's another question in the chat about X7 and the way if we can use it upside down, if I can translate it in the correct way, and how it fits to the other scans. So actually you can set up the X7 upside down, and these scans that you are, for example, doing in a manhole or yeah, inside a building upside down, these scans can be registered to the other scans. Important here. If it's not going to be automatically registered, there are steps in perspective to do it manually to link these scans together.
And also, if I may add about this, like, you know, when we play the scan like up, like normally, we can put it like plus minus 10 degrees and still be level with a 3 arc-second accuracy. But at the same, if you put it upside down, it's also like leveled with a plus minus 10 degrees and 3 arc-second accuracy. So really, you get the same accuracy if you're up or upside down. That's also something very important to consider as well. So the question about scanning on snow with the SX12, we got almost a few points on a snowy surface. Same would be with X7, same laser. So no, it's not the same laser. Did like few tests when I was in Colorado, like scan like some snow, and but also with the SX12, I had like no problem. I could collect a point if it's like the snow, not the ice, but like a snow surface was okay. So maybe if you can contact me after to try to get more details. You know, my name was Arno_Lezenek@Trimble.com. I'd be interested to know more about your experience here. And of course, like depending on where you're based in the world, I'll also like put you in touch with the correct distributor. But yeah, definitely I would like to know more about what you had with the snow, because all the tests we made were good. So yeah,
no, I can, sorry, no, I can confirm. So I was just picking this question. We have some data coming from the X7 on snow, and we have quite good results. So it's not only the wavelength of the laser, it's also maybe the distance and the angle of incidence with the snow. So there's a lot of parameters that we have to consider. But I remember I have seen a point cloud coming from Madrid in the recent time, where we had a lot of snow. Yeah, a lot of snow, and we were basically scanning a road with snow, so the angle was really not the best, but we had data. So yeah, you can get in contact with Arno or me as well. My email is paolo_cocca@trimble.com, so we can investigate more on this.
And also with the Trimble X7, as you know, there's like a mode. I don't know if many of you know about it or use it. It's called the high sensitivity mode. It's a bit it's not going as fast as a regular mode, but if you use that high sensitivity mode, and I'm sure like Rose, Gilda, or Melvin can comment, but you can really capture, like I saw some example like on a rooftop where people couldn't capture any point, and then when they use that mode, they capture all the points. So also could be helpful for those type of difficult surface as well to, yeah, don't forget that high sensitivity mode is very useful.
So we've got a customer that's using the TX8 in a busy factory environment with constant moving people and equipment. So he's asking, is there an easy way to remove this data in Trimble RealWorks? So Trimble has a few of these tools now. So recently in version 12, we have the moving object removal tool, which would work on a lot of the moving people. So that would work as well. And also we have the auto classify. So one of the best tools I love in RealWorks is the auto classify tool as well for sort of chopping the point cloud up. So, you know, we have millions of points. So the classify tool just chops it into more usable, smaller clouds, which you can edit as well. It's like any software. Software will put objects in the wrong place sometimes, but it's quite easy. It gives you a good starting point to work from. So I'm a big fan of the classify tool within RealWorks. So I would be using that.
Yeah, good point, maybe, because that tool we get like classification like outside, but also like indoor, also for tunnel, and it's also available inside Trimble Business Center as well for some of you who maybe use TBC. So, but yes, thank you, Melvin. It's a very good point.
I was going to mention the Business Center part. So yeah, no, it certainly is in both packages, and Trimble is continuously working on improving it, but it's very good for just removing. And also, don't forget, once you've classified, it gets you, if you start from scratch and you had to classify your data from scratch, it would take you a significant amount of time. But once you've classified, shifting data between different regions is quite easy. And it may not get you 100%. So you might look at it and go, there's still things that are on the wrong regions. But the fact that you've got that much closer than you would have otherwise is a significant time changer, saver.
I'm glad there is a special question about scanning linear object, token flow. So we're very happy to have like Ross McAtamney from Ultimate Positioning with us today, because he made some videos and things like that to explain how to do all those processes. So we're very lucky today.
I'll try and keep it short. Yeah,
if you can read the question, please, that will be good too. So
the
people
question
can.
that we've got is with scanning linear objects, like 2 kilometers of road, what is the best workflow? So there's specifics in here for minimum overlap, distance between stations, how many control points, and RealWorks workflow. The entire question, there's actually a fair bit to it, surprisingly enough. With using long linear objects, I would actually recommend thinking about what you're actually capturing. So if you're in urban environments, then an X7 should be all right because of the way that the registration works. Beacon, one thing to be aware of is that if you're using RealWorks, then putting targets in will allow you to do that target-based registration in RealWorks, and that will help register it together. The thing that you would want to do is keep your scans in groups that are relatively short. So don't try and do the whole length in one single hit. I've seen hundreds of scans being tied back to back, and the problem that you get at the end of that is it starts to wave due to the way that cloud-based registration works. That's not to say that it's wrong or can't be addressed. It's just a consideration in the way that the pickup is happening. In terms of overlap, if you're, say, out in the outback here in Australia where there's not a lot of verticals to deal with, then you would want more overlap. The reason for that is there's not a lot of things to lock it to. I would probably put down something to lock it to. If you've got nice trees or buildings to link to, then the overlap probably could be a little bit further apart. I wouldn't be trying to do an X7 scan, for example, at its maximum distance. Other things to consider is if you've got an intersection, maybe go and hire or use an SX10 or 12 in that area to tie that and lock those intersections into place to help with the way that it works. In terms of the number of points or targets that you would use, again, more is better, but you can sort of get overkill where you're probably spending more time trying to get your targets. It's a bit of a fine art form, and it's worth. The biggest thing I would recommend for those sorts of situations is spending some time to sit down and look at the project. Don't just take the scanner out and scan straight through. But RealWorks, the workflow would be if you have your targets and you can see your targets, or if you've identified your targets out in the field, use RealWorks target-based registration, and that will really lock it together and you won't have so many problems. But like I say, if you don't have that ability, if you're using TBC, for example, you can use processes to stop the error propagating through the entire length of the project by sort of shorter runs, picking areas to start and stop and handling it that way. Like Anu said, I had put some videos together to try and help that. So feel free to either reach out or Anu will have the links somewhere, I'm sure, that we can share if you're interested in that part of it, because it is something that particularly out here, we are doing a lot of outdoor scanning, and long lengths is something that we do a fair bit of because there's so much distance between things.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you like more questions about this, before the end, I will write down the email address of everyone, so you can reach out to. If you like Melvin, Ross, and Gilda, they're from a distribution, so partner, so they'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you, Ross.
Oh, hello, here's Volker. Someone is asking if the X7 can work on a floating platoon, so on a moving platform. That's possible. You can connect to the scanner, and then under the options or settings scanner, you can turn off the self-leveling. And once this is done, Trimble Perspective will not register those scans, but you can scan them, and later you need Office software to register. So that was one question, and there's another one. Someone is working in an underground utility.
So,
and they
sorry, Volker, just to complete the answer, maybe we suggest not to be on the same pontoon with the scanner and stay away from it in order to avoid any kind of movement. And for sure, that's consider that the data could be not reliable. I mean, we need that this pontoon is really stable. So even we deactivate the self-leveling, so the pontoon has to be quite quiet, I can say.
Yeah, it all depends on what the end result you're looking for.
Yeah,
obviously.
So
it's
of course,
possible.
If that
It's possible.
if that floating platoon is shaking around during its scan, this is not good, but it can just move. Yeah, then you turn off the self-leveling, and the level control is turned off as well. So there is no double checking before and after the scan, and theoretically that all works. But of course, in the end, it's the same. If you're on a moving bridge, and that's moving because a truck is passing by, or the platoon is shaken around by wind, then of course you may have difficulties.
So if you have a project like this, please, I don't know where you're located in the world, but please contact your local dealer also. If you want like to explain more about that project, they're going to be more than happy also to assist you.
And there's a second question I want to answer. Someone is working for an underground utility, and they want to scan some duck holes, it's called. So they are 9 meters long, 2 meters deep, but 0.5 meters wide. So that might be difficult because the minimum distance the X7 can scan is exactly that 0.5 meter. So you might not get the data.
But from what I can see from that, they're not allowed in the trench anyway. So I would be, they'd be having to scan the data from outside the trench. So this is where the inverting mode of the X7 will come into play. So the X7 is survey grade level, upside down or 10 degrees off level. So you could use an inverting tripod to see down into the trench quite nicely. So if you can set up in a safe place above the trench. So as long as there's safe locations to set up the X7 on the top of the trench or beside the trench, they should be able to get a lot of the data, and you should be able to self-register as you go as well. So it's just every site is different. Until you go to a site and start collecting the data, you're not aware of how it's going to flow. So it might be a good idea to sort of do a test job to start with to see how the workflow will work out, and you know what restrictions you have with access, etc. So be worth getting in touch with you and sort of doing a demo with a site for yourselves.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Melvin. So yeah, today we cannot go like too deep into all the answer, but yeah, again, if you have those projects and you need more, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us or your local dealer as well. Who wants to take the next
Hello, maybe I can.
Yes, Yannick, please.
So the question is, when working with the scan data and there is excessive noise of a surface, when you do a section view and the data is showing a thick section of points, any tips on selecting or drawing from the correct points? Well, that's tricky. So definitely in that case, when you have a very noisy point cloud, so it's not a very good start to draw on it. Basically, when you draw polylines or things like that in RealWorks, you have to draw like manually. So it can be difficult if you have a lot of noise, definitely. So we have that 2D easy line tools that can try to estimate polyline through the point cloud during some averaging. So you can play on a threshold to say that there is a lot of noise, so it will average more or less depend on that noise. But it can also create a lot of segments, even belong the unique line, let's say. So my feeling in that case is that point cloud is a 3D object. So you need maybe to think in 3 dimensions. So basically we have modeling tools like fitting tools. And the purpose of these fitting tools is definitely to average. So basically, if I use a flat surface, almost flat surface like a wall or a ground, a floor, if I fit the plane, it will manage to average the position of that plane, taking care of the noise, trying to find the best average position within that noise. So probably that would be better to go through 3D modeling, fitting, and then once you did some, if your section is about a building, if you can fit the walls of that building, you can then extract a polyline or a contour from that 3D model. So you will do first the 3D and then extract the 2D from the 3D, but from the 3D, which is a good averaging of the point cloud. So that's a bit generic thinking, but afterward, it really depends on the project, and that's something that can be checked. Let's say for each project. Thank you.
No, that's good. Thank you for answering that. I know it's not easy. It's best is to have like the example. So if you like an example like this, we again, yeah, contact your local dealer, have a demo online, see what it is. Also, it depends on what you use in terms of scanner, at what distance, what type of objects. There is many parameters involved in towards this. So there was a question also, like someone asking a question about how we can make the difference between like some scanner from the competition. So it really depends on your application, what you want to achieve, and all those things. So of course, I will tell you that our scanner are the best, which is true. But I think I would suggest you that you get in touch with us, or again, your local dealer, like could be like if you're in the UK, like Melvin, or in Australia with Ross, or in France with Gilda, so we'll be more than happy to help you to go through what are your project, what you want to achieve, what will be the best equipment to do this. And of course, you can do, if you have a demo of another scanner, you'll be more than happy to show the differences. Yeah, we really sell what we do, not against what others are doing, but of course we do very, very good. And please, if you never saw the Trimble X7 in action with perspective, with RealWorks on Trimble Business Center, please, yeah, depending where you are based in the world, contact your local distributor. Gib is more than happy to give you all the answer you need. Really, that would be the best way to answer that question.
There was a question about control on site and the best way of putting control. So he's asking if you can't use the retro. So my go-to is the checkerboard. So so you can, if you don't have a checkerboard, there's always a way of shooting a known point on site. I was kind of lazy a lot of times, so not having to put a checkerboard. So I'd set up the total station and throw up a mark on the wall, so a pencil mark or something of reference there. And the good thing about shooting the control with the X7, as long as you can see it with your eyes, you can shoot that point using the laser on the X7. So you don't have to see it on the tablet, you see it via the laser. So the control could be anywhere on site that's quite safe to sort of put it, really. So there's many options of using different control on site.
Yeah, there's another question. I can continue. Any demo videos showing how to carry out a flatness scan or report on concrete? Yes, we have a few videos available. So if you go to the YouTube channel and search for Trimble Wheelworks, there are a few videos available around Trimble Wheelworks and also explaining the floor inspection tool that we are using, and also the floor flatness and floor levelness tool that we're having in Trimble Wheelworks, helping you to really analyze the scan based on the flatness.
So maybe to answer another question, sorry. Just following what Steven said, there is another question. Like I scanned a large semi-cylindrical hood and need to assess the two flat end panels for flatness. So that's part of what Steven just said. So actually in RealWorks, to check flatness of things, we have a set of tools which are mainly what we call the 2D inspection. So for an horizontal surface, there is a floor flatness. For a vertical surface, you have the wall verticality tool. And then you have a more generic 2D inspection where you compare two surfaces, to cloud surface you create compared to a cloud and so on, to check, to do inspection and check main flatness or other kind of deformations that you may have. So it's, let's say, a whole about 2D inspection. Depend on your project, you may use one or the other of these tools.
There's a question about which is the possible support of a Trimble X7 into an forest inventory project. So it's difficult to say which is the best workflow to apply with a scanner here. So I really suggest to contact us, maybe to give us more information about the environment, how dense is the forest, and with which kind of vegetation we are expecting in. So maybe we can suggest and design which is the best workflow in order to get out data from there.
And if I may add, Paolo, on that one, we had some customer like in Ross territory in Australia. We did like a project like into the forest, and you can use also like that automatic registration of the Trimble X7 with the trees. It's working fairly well. Of course, it depends on the density of the forest, but to automatically register all your scans. And also you can use the annotation tool inside Trimble Trimble Perspective. So let's say like if one tree is damaged or whatever, you can tag those trees and you can take a photo with your tablet and attach that photo to that annotation. So when you come back after in the office, that will also help you for the GIS inventory of the forest. So many different options that can be used for these two. So as Paolo said, more than happy to comment further on that one. But it's been done, just to let you know.
So the customer was asking earlier about scanning a factory with lots of moving objects. So he's now asking, which scanner would we recommend? With like all these things, like the X7 would probably fit quite nicely in this environment. It depends on how open the factory is, but basically using the X7, you would register on site as you go. So you would know, that your scans are registered. When you're using the TX8, you have to do all your registration in the office. so afterwards. So maybe, you know, I would do a test run with the X7 to see how it works in that environment. Every environment you go to, every scan data I've ever captured is different, and until you go to site and start capturing it, you're never sure how well it's going to work or not. So I would certainly recommend using the X7, and basically you could, you know, export the recap file, so straight from the tablet to go into Revit. But the issue you still have is cleaning up the scan data before you put it into Revit if you wish. But you know, from modeling from Revit and my past, you know, you kind of ignore the moving stuff and just concentrate on drawing the walls and the machinery rather than getting involved cleaning up the data. So if you're just drawing from it. So I hope that helps.
I think just adding to that, some like looking at what types of scanners are around and going and asking the dealers or the, you know, if you can talk to Trimble themselves and asking the question about what, if you're not sure yourself, what best scanner would be to help you with your approach. That's what we're here for, essentially, to assist you through that. So we're not sort of going to try and lead you down a garden path. We want you to have the best experience too. And there are different options and different scanners available to help with different solutions. So you know, we have forums like this to ask questions, but yeah, please feel free to reach out and ask sort of if you have specific requirements like that you need to get more from. There's a question here talking about the linear extraction tools in TBC, but not in RealWorks, as well as the power lines and those automatic functions that we have in TBC. As a dealer, we tend to explain the difference between the two packages generally as, well, in Australia, we'd look at it as your TBC is more your 2D outputs such as line work and those sorts of things, and RealWorks is where you're getting into that 3D workflow environment. The tools tend to be a bit more slated towards that 2D environment for feature extraction, particularly when you're getting line work out, curb and gutters, trees, poles and signs, and those sorts of things. The other thing to mention with regards to that is that it can be tied to feature FXLs, so feature libraries, for enhancing those sorts of details. So in TBC, those functions are sort of more tailored for that. You can get basic line work out of RealWorks, and you can still go down those workflows, but the way that we've been looking at it in Australia has been that the different packages go down different workflows. So unless there's someone from Trimble that might have a bit more to add to that, that would be how I would see it and why there is that difference there at this stage.
And also for some of those features, they were like implemented to a Trimble Business Center because we had that mobile mapping module inside it. So it was really made like for those, if people have the MX50, MX9, even MX7, to do those long lines. So that was also one of the reasons. But it's good to get that feedback so we can also discuss with our software team about all this, definitely. There was a question about what is the accuracy level of the scan data if the scan is taken at 30 to 40 meter distance, and how is the quality of the scan data? Will there be like any discontinuities or data loss? So it's not very easy to answer that question like this without being like on site, but the accuracy will be the same whatever the distance. Like it's like an angular accuracy, so it depends on what you want to achieve. And of course, at that distance, it means that you need like more density for your point. So if you like the lowest resolution scan mode, you will maybe not have enough point. But again, it depends if you want to like an orthophoto of a building facade or extract like curbs or points. So and so the quality will be the same whatever the distance. But again, data loss, discontinuities, it will depend on the albedo of the surface. So if it's like a dark building or white building, so there's many parameters involved here, and I think the best will really be to discuss about what you would like to achieve here. There is like not a question that fits all here. So definitely we need to know more about the project or what you would like to achieve here. So please don't hesitate to reach out. With big pleasure, we'll answer that question in more details. Can do like a go-to meeting or Google Meet to go through your project ourselves or our distribution channel, obviously. And I don't know if there are like some more questions. Please don't hesitate. There is one about what is the biggest bottleneck in laser scanning. Sorry, the biggest bottleneck in laser scanning is control. Control is everything. Is Trimble planning to release a TLS with an inbuilt GNSS, like is the case for the MMS MX9 and MX50. So yeah, that's why with the Trimble X7 on perspective, we use also the IMU and all those things to make like a automatic registration. Can also like add control. I don't know if you know, but we have like a geo referencing tool, the Trimble X7. So Trimble X7 is the only scanner with a laser pointer so that you can point to like a control points. And then if you have like the coordinates of those points, you can geo reference your project in the field in Trimble perspective. So we can do a lot of this. Of course, if you compare with MX9 and MX50, it's not the same size of project. So, but we can do it today. We do a lot of control. I can automatic control with the IMU and some special algorithm. We add control with target. We can do geo referencing. We can measure specific point with a laser pointer. So even those reflective targets, you could use a laser pointer to shoot at some of them. And depending on the reflectivity, of course, on all those things. So again, we'd be very interested to know more about the meaning, or if you want to add to that question into the chat, please. Or again, yeah, very not so easy to answer the question like this, but we have the question, and hopefully we will. I don't know if someone else wants to add anything to that question in our team. And I don't know, is there like some more question? Please, we still have some time, like more than 10 minutes left. So if you have like other question, please don't hesitate to add them to the chat window, please.
I don't know, maybe just.
Please.
Sorry, Marvin. Just to complete the control through GNSS. So it's also difficult to make a comparison with a mobile scanning system with a static scanning. So the GNSS inside a mobile system like MX9 and MX50 is used to define the trajectory, but we need also to then download some RENEX data in order to calculate the position. So it's not that GNSS on board those products that is really defining the high accuracy position of the system as well. So and the internal GNSS of a scanner is not a GNSS that can provide a centimetric position. So for sure it could be a tool, but the georeferencing workflow that you were describing before, I think it's really a compelling workflow for all the users that want georeference scan data.
Melvin, you wanted to add, or don't want to put, or if someone wanted to add?
Yeah. No, there was another question that sort of came in that I was going to skip on to. So, the customer's asking, are you able to collect scan data of such marks as tape or on the floor or parking spaces? So, yes, like obviously tape mark. It depends how small the tape mark is, but basically a nice feature within like the perspective or RealWorks is changing the rendering to color intensity. So I really find like white lines on the road and car parking white lines really stand out in that mode. So I think, you know, if you are scanning and changing your rendering style to this, this data does step out quite nicely. Even like when you switch it on and have an elevation, you can see all the mortar of the bricks as well on the building. It's quite impressive seeing it in that feature. So that's what I would be using.
I would add to that like the color-coded registration and even the black and white is probably when you're digitizing data is where you live. True color is very good to look at and it's very pretty, but there's a lot of cases where someone might have walked in the way, or there's a shadow, or the light intensity is a bit out, and it becomes a little meaningless. Whereas the intensity values, it really does show a lot of that data. The only thing I would add is if it's if the floor parking spaces or what you're trying to get is in a high use area, such as like a mine tunnel or something where they become dirty, the reflective capabilities do sort of subside. So it's worth cleaning them up if you're looking for particular marks, or getting the bigger the better, I would, if you're just using tape. But if it's line markings, then generally, yeah, there's no problems.
Also, I just placed my email address. You can see on the screen. So if you can also like direct those questions to me, and then I can forward them after to Ross, Melvin, Gilda, of course, if you would like to. And there was a question again about the forest. If you like going to work in an environment where forests are dense, is it possible to have the dendrometric data by processing the point cloud of a dense forest, and what kind of information we can get from them? So something I forgot to mention in the previous question about forest is inside Trimble Business Center, we also have a tool to automatically extract trees. So, you know, like Melvin and Ross mentioned the automatic classification of a site. So with the automatic classification for outside, you can classify like buildings, pylons, and signs, but also like trees. And inside Trimble Business Center, once you extracted those trees from the ground surface and everything, so you have like a group of point cloud, we correspond to the trees, and we have a tool, an algorithm to extract all the trees. So you will get the center of the tree, you can get the height of the tree, the width of the tree, and also like for dendrometric project, sometimes you would like to get like a cross section at a specific height, could be like 1 meter from the ground or 2 meters or whatever. You can define that parameter, so it will basically do like a cross section at that height for all your trees. So use the Trimble X7 in the field to collect all your data with the automatic registration. Nothing can stop you from adding targets if you want. But then in Trimble Business Center, you do like your automatic classification that will extract the ground and on the trees. And then with the trees, you can extract all the trees. It's automatic, so you have nothing to do. If it misses some of them, you can add some like manually. And then you can also like check all of them and get all that information to an Excel file, for example, with the location of the tree, and then the dimension, the center again, the height, the width, the diameter of the trunk, and all those things. So yeah, definitely try to have a look at Trimble Business Center for that one, the scanning module. It's that's been made for that in a way, that one. So if you want more, you have my email address, and then I can also like put you in touch with our local dealer for that one.
Yes, in the TLSA, we can create a link with a JS module, and when you extract the tree and the extract automatically, you can create the data attributes with the tip of the tree and other data.
Thank you, Gilles. I know you did like a few projects about this too. So
there's a question about how good the registration is along long roads with minimal few buildings along the road. It is again how good is the X7 registration? It's sort of like how long is a piece of string, depending on how long the road you're looking at doing, how many scans you're handling, what else is in the area. So again, going to the Outback Australia example, if there's nothing there, then you're likely to get more movement. The reason for that is the cloud-based registration has less things to lock to. So in those cases, you would go and put your vehicle between scans or something between the scans to give it some form of something. If it's a lot of trees, another thing with trees is when you scan it from one direction, it can look drastically different from another direction. So registering the two together can become a little bit complex. So the reason why it's a very open-ended answer to that question is yes, there are inherent problems. They can be fixed. It's recommended to keep those sections shorter wherever possible and tie those short sections to something that you know is there. And again, I'd probably reach out and we can talk about that further. It's probably not able to be answered in a short amount of time, and it's going to be dependent on your project. But yeah, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we can sort of look at that a bit more.
Yeah, just to add from my point of view, I've done some scanning on a motorway in the UK, and it's just a long straight linear road with just some road signs and some verge, and I don't know how I did it, but I registered 20 scans together quite nicely on the motorway. So the X7 just surprises me how we can register in difficult environments. Until I go to site and use it, I'm never sure how it's going to perform, and it always surprises me. So it's always good testing these environments.
And then, and any time we talk about errors, they're not, because each scan can still be pulled apart and individually linked again later. We can address any minor errors that you might have. So what I'm not trying to be negative or say that you know, but being realistic. But the X7 is very surprising. The other thing with the X7 is you can track essentially, if you have GCPs, you can see where your error is, how much you've shifted, because you can bring them in and you can add them in as you go through or at a later stage. You can break it up into shorter sections. So there are ways of managing any perceived error as you go through the project. However, the X7 is quite good at handling sort of multiple environments like that.
So yeah, to summarize, if you never saw the Trimble X7 in action, that's the right time to contact Ross, Gilda, Melvin, or other people, depending where you are based. You're gonna be more than happy, surprised too. I know like some question left.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
I can probably share the answer. I'm sure Melvin and others have is the cloud-based reliant on planes or any common shapes object? I would always look to try and get some form of vertical surface, and if you can get two planes, that will help lock the two scans in together. So indoors, if you've got a corner in your scan, you're essentially locking anything that links to that to two types of planes, which is why we talk about potential errors outside, because you don't necessarily get that. But it does rely on vertical surfaces, and you will improve your registration if you have vertical surfaces on not just one but two. If you have just one vertical surface, when the registration happens, you can potentially slip along that. So it's better to have the two at an angle to sort of lock it into that particular corner, and that will assist you. So while the X7 is used inside a lot, it's very good at that. It can be used outside, and you won't really necessarily see any differences with that. But yeah, that would sort of be the answer for that for cloud-based registration. It's a big component of how that works.
So we have 2 minutes left. I don't know, maybe like Gilda or Ross or Melvin, like that question line 30 about the training.
Yes. So me myself, I've got 20 years of experience of being a surveyor. So at Correc, you know, we pride ourselves on the technical support we provide. So it's not all about selling you the kit, it's providing you the support afterwards. So here at Correc, we like to do that. So, and like any sort of provider of kit, we will give you good training. And yesterday I was constantly getting phone calls all day supporting customers. So I'm always, you know, and within the UK, we're based in regions as well. So you have your local support team as well.
And that's the same for Gilda and Ross.
Yeah, we have the same situation. So we do training. We can do both in like on-site training, or we can do it sort of online. We're constantly answering questions. We have a support team in Australia that if you can't get on to me or specifically, the support team will just as adequate at answering questions, and they're very good. So we have support numbers where based, you know, we have Alterra in New Zealand, and then there's UPG in sort of the main part of Australia. There's also a dealer in Western Australia who has a great support network as well. So for any Australian customers, please reach out to us, and we're more than happy to assist with specific training requirements, or even just talk you through specific cases and pull apart data. I always love pulling apart problematic data and trying to get to the bottom of things. So yeah.
So yeah, today we have example. We have like a Melvin from the UK, Ross from Australia, and Gilles from France. But we have like if you like in Romania, in South Africa, in the US, in anywhere in the world, we have like some distributors. So I don't know where you are based, but if you have like some issue with training, please reach out to me, and we with Paolo, and we can also like put you in touch with the local dealer if you don't know them. We'll be more than happy to assist. And I think we reached the top of the hour. There were like quite a few questions, but we promise you we will get back to you during the day if there are some questions we didn't answer. Really appreciated your assistance today in that as the expert session. Also would like to thank Ross, Melvin, and Gilda for their assistance with us and the rest of the team. And if you would like to get like a next session, or if like specific topic you would like us to do like a webinar on, could be like on modeling, could be on exporting, could be on scanning or whatever, a different session, please send me an email, or you can see that what you can see on the screen, the contact. You like a little bot that Sophie created, and you can ask all your questions here. We'll receive all your questions. So if you want like a specific demos or specific or whatever question you have, please don't hesitate to go to the website geospatial.trimble.com/x7-scanner. You can see that little nice little bot. Ask your question here, and we'll gladly get back to you ourselves or our distribution. But thank you very much for all your time. Good evening, or good afternoon, or good end of your morning, or happy lunch, or I don't know where you are. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a nice day.